Hey everyone, welcome into our latest Traded Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales, and today we're welcoming you back in for a wild weekly recap of the cannabis industry, from a potential hemp ban in Washington to whiskey sales dropping thanks to weed, and a wave of reform sweeping through Pennsylvania and Texas. So let's break it all down. But before we get into today's weekly recap, a quick reminder to like, subscribe, and let us know what you think were the biggest moments this week in cannabis, and if you find these weekly recaps helpful. We always love to get your feedback. So with that, let's get into it. So let's first kick things off on Capitol Hill. The House Appropriations Subcommittee advanced a new spending bill that would effectively redefine hemp, and not in a good way. The move is led by Republican Andy Harris, and it targets the so-called hemp loophole that has allowed CBD, Delta-8, and other cannabinoid products to thrive since the 2018 Farm Bill. Under this language, hemp would now only mean plants grown for fiber, grain, or microgreens, not cannabinoids. That means even trace amounts of THC or anything that feels like THC could be federally banned. This is not a good thing. And with that, smart approaches to marijuana, Sam clearly is calling this a huge win for them. But hemp advocates are calling it DEFCON 1. Jonathan Miller from the Hemp Roundtable said this could wipe out the $8 billion hemp industry and put tens of thousands of jobs at risk. You don't say. The bill still needs to survive the full House and Senate, so stay tuned on what could happen next year. Still a long way to go. Now over to the war between cannabis and alcohol. If you've been lighting up instead of pouring a drink, you're not alone, and big alcohol is now paying attention. We've known this for quite some time. And what I mean by that is Brown-Forman CEO Lawson Whiting, the guy behind Jack Daniels and Woodford Reserve, just admitted that marijuana is pressuring spirit sales. Net sales were down 5%, and Whiting blamed it on, you guessed it, cannabis, changing generational preferences, and Ozempic. Even in Europe, where legal weed is limited, alcohol sales are slumping. Cannabis legalization is now officially listed as a risk factor for Brown-Forman's future growth. We're starting to see some change here. According to Bloomberg, weed is stealing the buzz, especially among millennials and Gen Z. One report even says cannabis could add 20 million regular users by 2027, while booze loses millions. That's not that far away. The bottom line, the future may be less whiskey neat and a lot more pre-rolls and gummies. Bring it on. Now over to PA, where Governor Josh Shapiro says he wants marijuana legalization bill on his desk by the end of June. After the House-backed bill failed, a new compromise is in the works from Senator Sharif Street and Republican Rick Krajewski. Shapiro stressed this is about justice, competitiveness, and tax revenue, especially tax revenue. With 60% of some border dispensary customers coming from PA, the pressure's on to catch up, especially when you look at all these neighboring states. Meanwhile, Senator Dan Laughlin, he wants to slow things down and first create a new agency to regulate cannabis. Still, whichever way you look at it, progress is building. Now to the Lone Star State. In a rare bipartisan move, Texas lawmakers passed a major expansion of the state's compassionate use program. The bill now includes chronic pain, TBI, Crohn's, and palliative care, and removes the controversial opioids first mandate. This is interesting. It also allows more product formats, boosts dispensary licenses from 3 to now 15, and lets doctors petition for new conditions. All eyes are now on Governor Greg Abbott to sign. Big question is, will he? And now in California, lawmakers are working to delay a scheduled excise tax hike on cannabis from 15% to 19%, originally set for July of 2025. The new bill could push it out to 2030. Let's push that out. Meanwhile, Normal and others are urging quick action, saying the tax is driving people back to the illicit market and crushing small legal operators. A procedural move could make the delay immediate if added to a budget trailer bill. Let's shift now to the business side of things, where Trulieve launched the Roll Up for Justice campaign to support Weldon Angelos' Mission Green, helping expunge records and support re-entry for non-violent cannabis offenders. Spare change here could spark some real change. Also making news was multi-state operator Terracin, where CFO Keith Stauffer is stepping down on July 18th. Alyssa Campbell will serve as interim CFO as the company searches for a permanent replacement. Next up is Vireo Growth, who just acquired Proper Brands in Missouri for $102 million in stock, scoring 11 dispensaries, a large cultivation facility, and a growing delivery business. Next up is Cannabis and Omega Labs, and they're moving closer to launching a marijuana breath test that detects recent THC use, not what you smoked last week. Commercialization is in progress. We also saw news this week from multi-state operator the Cannabis Company Holdings, who added restructuring expert Tom Lynch and Leafly Chief Operating Officer Peter Lee to its board, signaling a strategic pivot following debt restructuring. This is a company that people are rooting for. Let's get some progress, not perfection here. Let's now head to the land down under, where Aurora Cannabis is stepping up in Australia with 2 new 22% THC strains under its Indomed brand via MedRelief. Global reach plus premium product equals their growing formula. Another Canadian LP making news this week was Rubicon Organics, which finally acquired and sealed the deal in the new 47,500 square foot indoor facility in Hope, BC. Get this, expect output to jump 40% in full revenue contribution by 2026. It's a great story here by Margaret and the team. Also making news this week was Inchanics, who added 4 major sleep researchers to its advisory board for IHL42X. It's a cannabis-based sleep apnea drug. Phase 2 data drops in July. New Lake Capital, they also made an announcement this week where they will be hitting the circuit this June. First up this week will be in Chicago at the Benzinga Capital Conference on June 9th, followed by the Audition Virtual Conference on June 12th, and finally, the big one, Cannabis Europa in London on June 24th. So what's in store? Each panel will focus on cannabis debt, finance, and the evolving global capital landscape. Pack your bags and get your passport ready, Mr. Caniglio. Also, some interesting news that we came across this week involves Frank Colombo over at Viridian, who had some sharp analysis on the Air Wellness restructure. If you're holding or even considering a contrarian play, this might be worth a read. So make sure to subscribe to his daily newsletter when you get a chance. An interesting take on what investors should know what's next for Air Wellness, as we've been highlighting a lot over the past 7 to 10 days. And finally, Village Farms has officially closed the sale of its produce business, going full throttle into cannabis. And this has been the big story of the industry over the past month. With 160 acres of greenhouse power behind them, CEO Michael DeGiulio says they're now a focused global cannabis platform. Pro forma financials are on the way. And here's something, Michael DeGiulio, their CEO, continues to buy stock this week, so that's worth pointing out. Let's face it, VFF, it's been the darling of the space over the last 30 days. So that's a wrap this week for the Traded Black podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, smash on that bell for all notifications, and keep the conversation going. What was the biggest moment for you this week in the cannabis industry? You got any questions about PA, Texas, regarding hemp, regarding the overall cannabis industry, let us know. We always love to have some transparency and love to get your feedback. We're going live tomorrow morning in Chicago at the Benzinga Capital Conference. We'll be live streaming all day, featuring the biggest thought leaders in the space, so make sure you stay connected and be with us tomorrow, as it should be a good day with a number of interviews that we will have for probably 6 or 7 hours. So a big day coming up. One last thing, make sure to scan this QR code and become a daily baked-in newsletter subscriber delivered to your inbox weekdays Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, giving you all the latest information on the business and reform side of the cannabis industry. Thanks for checking everybody, the Traded Black podcast and the TDR channel, home to 50,000 subscribers this week. So a big thank you for everyone that supports us. Let's keep this community growing. Until then, stay open-minded, stay connected, and I'll see you next time on our latest Traded Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Thanks again for watching.